Hello and welcome to this week's edition of 50 Years Serving the Island, where each week we bring you highlights from the Manx Radio archives as we celebrate 5 decades serving the public in the Isle of Man. In 1968, Manx Radio was transferred into public ownership to become the island's public service broadcaster. And this morning, we're going back to 2011, when on the 21st of April that year, an historic and very proud event took place for the Isle of Man, as 40 island residents received the Maundy Money from Her Majesty the Queen in a service at Westminster Abbey in London. A week later, Manx Radio broadcast a programme looking back at the event, which was presented by Judith Lay on the eve of the wedding of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
The sound of your life, Manx Radio.
Good evening. Tomorrow morning, the eyes and ears of the world will be tuned to Westminster Abbey. But for a group of local people, even the splendour and spectacle of a royal wedding won't be able to outshine their own experience in that famous building just a week ago. On Perspective tonight, I'm joined by Ben Hartley, who was our reporter in Westminster Abbey last Thursday, to experience the Royal Maundy service and chat to some of those who received purses of Maundy money from the Queen. The first time that people from the Isle of Man have ever been included in this historic event, which each year recognises the contribution that ordinary people have made to the life of their local church or community. So Ben, how did the day start for you?
We got there about 8:15. The sun was shining, glorious weather, one of the hottest days of the year so far. Doors opened at 8:45, which was a good 2 hours before the actual ceremony began. So we were in by about 9 o'clock because, we were thinking, let's get in there and let's get sorted and settled.
Was it very quiet or was there already plenty doing?
There was already a fair amount of hustle and bustle because there was a lot of staff there who, by the way, were brilliant, really, really friendly and made the security process a lot easier, and it wasn't as sort of nerve-wracking as it sometimes is, having to go through those scanners, and it can be a bit of a nervous experience, but actually they were really good. And there was a sort of feeling of excitement, really. First of all, that moment where you walk through the doors. I mean, this is an iconic, hugely historical building that I've seen on the TV many times. One of my earliest memories is at school watching the royal wedding between Andrew and Fergie in 1986 at the Abbey. So to be there inside was amazing in that respect, and just the fact that it's the most beautiful building. It's huge when you go in and you just look up to the top and you think, wow, and it's almost in 2 sections. There's like a sort of dividing section about halfway down, and then it carries on. That's where the Queen and all the dignitaries sat. So quite amazing to actually be there and just take in the sort of splendour of it. It's a breathtaking place, it really is.
How did you feel when you saw all our people coming in?
Do you know, it was really exciting because their friends and family had arrived before them. As you say, they were being held back, and we were able to sort of have a chat because it was quite informal at this point, which was nice. You were able to sort of wander around, and I was having a natter to the various people I knew. They filed in, and it was a great moment actually, because they all sat along the front there right on the aisle so they could be given the Maundy money. And yeah, just really good to see them come in and see 40 people from the Isle of Man for the first time being recognised in this way. It was a great moment.
What was the atmosphere like when the whole thing was over?
It was really nice actually, because of course you've got the pomp and the ceremony and the very formal side of things, rightly so, when Her Majesty is there. And after the fanfare, she left Westminster Abbey and went outside and did a little walk around and met so many people. It was amazing seeing the news afterwards, because we hadn't realised quite how many people had gathered outside when we were inside. So immediately after she left, it was like a sort of slightly relaxed air just came over the whole Abbey and became very informal. People stood up and started chatting to each other, taking photographs and speaking to the Manx contingent. I think they were slightly overwhelmed at the whole experience, understandably so. You've just met the Queen. You've been given this huge honour of the Maundy money, and you're inside Westminster Abbey. The whole thing's just been live on BBC One, so no wonder one or two of them were a little bit overwhelmed. Barbara Barron from Ballaugh. How did it feel to receive the Maundy money today?
It was absolutely amazing. It's been a wonderful service, and I feel very humble about it all.
How did you feel beforehand about actually meeting Her Majesty?
Well, a little bit nervous, but she was so pleasant and put us all at ease.
And to be here in central London, the Isle of Man being recognised, Barbara, how important is it for the island to actually be recognised in such a way?
Very important, and I'm sure it's put us all on the map.
And tell me, Barbara, what is it you actually have done to be recognised in this way to receive the Maundy Money? It's for playing the organ in church, I believe.
Yes, I played the organ for 65 years. I started when I was 13, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And if you love what you do, you don't think of the years going by. And I hope I've made a little contribution to the community and to the church especially.
And just tell me finally, fine organ playing in here today. Would you like to have got up and had a go yourself?
It was amazing. It would have been simply wonderful.
If they booked you to play an even song a little later, would you take them up on the offer?
Well, I'd be very shy for that.
So, John Kenyick, here we are, proud day for the Isle of Man.
It's an unbelievable day, Ben, to be here in the Abbey with all our Manx friends around us, taking such a prominent part in this. It was a very, very moving service.
It was indeed, wasn't it? And when the Queen came by, did she actually say anything to you?
No, she just presented it with a lovely, lovely, gracious smile. I really do admire English pageantry, and to have been part of that today is truly amazing. And I couldn't help but feel, as this pageant, which was what it was at the beginning of the service, got underway, when we started to sing the hymn, "It is a thing most wonderful," I used to sing that with my Sunday school scholars in Lower Foxdale, without any organ, without any heating, but that's where it all started.
So we're with the Bishop, Robert Patterson. A hugely proud day for the Isle of Man.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. I just spoke with the Queen now and told her how honoured the island was. She said it was a great pleasure to be able to do it.
And you were a great campaigner for the island to be recognised in this way at the Royal Maundy service.
Well, yes, I've been nagging for a bit, and I think it was last July I was first told that it was going to happen, and it's taken an awful lot of organising. It's been mainly my secretary, Rosemary, who's done the bulk of the work. She's just been fantastic, and given all sorts of extra hours and time and so forth to getting it all organised. And it's just lovely to see how happy everybody is here today. Really is exciting.
Can you give us a little insight into the selection process, how the 40 people from the Isle of Man were chosen?
Yes, I brought together a group of people, the Lieutenant Governor, President of Tynwald, Chief Minister, various others, most of whom sent representatives, captains of the parish, representatives of the Free Churches, Roman Catholic Church, and so on. There were about 14 of us. And we just went away and liaised. For instance, the captain of the parish, the one who came, liaised with the other captains and so on. And then we had this huge list, and it was difficult really to decide. So we tried to make sure there was a spread across the island and so forth. We could have put 200 names on if we really wanted.
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, really looking through the list of why people have been chosen, a huge, wide-ranging variety of people who give their time to so many different causes.
That's right, yes. And especially the kind of people that don't get recognised, who might, for years look after someone or be a school caretaker or whatever it happens to be for years and years and never expect to have anything. And that kind of person really deserves to be honoured in this sort of way. And of course there are many more that couldn't be here, but in a sense they represent them.
A hugely traditional ceremony. This goes back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Does, yes.
I mean, how important is it for this kind of ceremony to continue?
Oh, well, I think it's one of them. It's one of the sort of anchors in British society, and it's very useful to have these kind of moments when we remind ourselves that the present day isn't everything that there is. I mean, not that the present day isn't important, but the present day isn't everything.
And finally, you yourself had to get up and do a reading. Any nerves there at that moment?
Well, no, I've done it fairly often, you see, so it's kind of one of those things that clergy have to do quite a lot. Although I did have to type it out a bit bigger because I looked at the size of the print in the order and service and thought, I'm not quite sure that my old eyes can cope with this, so I printed it. But I was a bit miffed that the Duke of Edinburgh, who doesn't wear glasses and is 90 years old, could read it out of the book without glasses. Made me feel a bit sort of decrepit, really.
Anne Quilliam, how did you feel the service went today?
Very well indeed. It was lovely to see the Queen smiling and so happy on her birthday. And didn't Prince Philip read well? It's been an altogether amazing experience coming here.
Did you ever think it was an experience you'd ever get to enjoy?
No, not. I didn't think I would be included. Very happy time today, never to be forgotten.
So we're with Nanette Garlick now.
Yes.
An incredible day for you and 39 other Manx people to be here.
Absolutely, it was just wonderful. This is a special year because I've been on the island for 50 years this year, got this lovely honour, and I won't tell you my age, but it's a very, very special one. And I've got a little great niece or nephew on the way this year. So 4 lovely things happening this year.
I mean, how did you feel when you first were told you were going to be honoured in this way at the Royal Maundy service?
When I opened the letter, when I saw the envelope, I just couldn't believe that. I was shaking all over. And then I opened it and I just couldn't believe it. It just absolutely came out of the blue.
Can you give us a little bit of insight into what you've done?
I was the organiser of school meals for 26 years, and that was the post I came for. That's why I came to the island. And I've had a good number of years retired now, and it's just lovely to be retired in this lovely island.
And finally, Her Majesty the Queen, when she came by and handed you your 2 purses, just describe that moment.
Just absolutely lovely, and she's got the most lovely smile. And I did say, I wish you a very happy birthday, ma'am. And she said, thank you, that's kind.
Marjorie Farger, Peel in London, what a day.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. And the pageantry of this, I wouldn't have missed it for anything. You know, it's absolutely super.
I mean, all the colours and everything in this amazing building, it's an incredible ceremony.
Looking around, you know, it is just wonderful. You know, I mean, it's only Britain that could do pageantry like this. And the Queen looked absolutely super, didn't she? I only had a chance to say thank you, Your Majesty, you know, because obviously she had so many to get through. But the smile that she gave you as she handed you the money, you know, that means such a lot anyhow.
Now, Marjorie, you're well known for your tireless commitment to charity and community. Of course, the Peel Charity Shop, you raise thousands and thousands of pounds through that. What sort of drives you to do that kind of work and give of your time to time?
I just like meeting people. I just like the atmosphere we have in the shop. We all work so well together. And people are very good. The donations that come into us, if we didn't get the donations in the shop, obviously we couldn't keep going. But no, they're very good. So.
And finally, how important is it for the Isle of Man to be recognised here in London on the worldwide stage?
Very, very important. I look forward to seeing it on television.
Because it is an incredible building and something we've seen on the telly countless times, but to actually be here, very special.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. Even if I die tomorrow, I'll have died happy now.
Mary Kenyuk, here we are, the Isle of Man in London, outside Westminster Abbey. The service has just finished. Just tell us, if you can, in a few words, what you thought of the whole experience.
Oh, it was a wonderful experience, really. I can't really describe it. It was really super.
Such a traditional ceremony that goes back hundreds of years, and all that pomp and all that ceremony still continues. And Anne, how was it for you to see your mother being recognised in such a way?
Very special, it really was. I mean, you know, she's done so much for the church over the years, and fully deserved to be here today. You know, it was a special moment, particularly when the Queen obviously came and gave her the Maundy pennies.
Did you think you'd ever see your mother being recognised in such a way by Her Majesty?
You don't dream of these things happening, do you, really? But no, I mean, it is lovely. It was just a very, very special occasion.
Just tell us, Mary, a little bit about what you've done to actually receive the Maundy money.
Do I really have to?
Go on, tell us a little bit. Go on, give us 20 seconds.
Well, I've been diocesan president of the Mothers' Union many years ago, and I suppose I still actively work within the church doing different things that are recognised as being work in the Church of Britain.
And you also set up the Mothers and Tots Club in St John's.
I did, yes. That's a long time ago too.
Yes.
You forget these things, don't you?
Yeah,
really.
When the St John's was quite small, and there were young families coming into the village, and so Mum decided that it needed something for them, so she set up a Mothers and Tots sort of group.
I mean, I know it's not involved in today's organisation, but I've been involved in Girl Guardian as well.
I mean, how important is it that there are people like you around who give of their time so tirelessly to help good causes and just help people?
It's very important, really. The charitable organisations have been here recognised too from the island today, and that I feel is very important because they do such amount of work as well, don't they? Supporting people.
How important is it, Anne, do you think, that the Isle of Man is recognised in this way?
Oh, it is very important. We're very much part of the British Isles and and particularly the Anglican Communion. So obviously it's important that we are recognised. They tend to sometimes forget us, I think, that we're tucked away in the middle of the Irish Sea. But no, we're very much part of the Anglican Communion in the British Isles. Therefore, yes, we need to be part of this.
And finally, Mary, Her Majesty, when she came by, just tell us a little bit about that moment.
Well, that was very special. I just said, thank you, Your Majesty. And she's got a wonderful smile. She doesn't have an easy life, does she? Not one of us would want to have to do all she does all the time. And I think the young people who are coming on will follow in her steps.
Do you think Prince William and Kate Middleton, do you think they'll carry on the traditions?
I think they're two very good young people. I think they will, feel their own responsibilities.
Thank you, Ben Hartley, for bringing us those memorable moments recorded in Westminster Abbey immediately after the Royal Maundy service.
You're listening to 50 Years Serving the Island, a series of programmes featuring highlights from Manx Radio's archives as we celebrate 5 decades serving the public in the Isle of Man. This morning, we're revisiting a special programme from April in 2011, looking at the 40 island residents who received the Maundy Money from Her Majesty the Queen.
A number of the island's clergy were also in the Abbey to take part in the actual service alongside Bishop Robert. The Archdeacon, the Venerable Brian Smith, was there, together with Canon Philip Freer from Kirkbraden, Canon Duncan Whitworth from St Matthew's in Douglas, Canon Nigel Godfrey from the Cathedral in Peel, and Canon Malcolm Convery. When he came back to the island, I caught up with Canon Malcolm at home in Kirkmichael. When the Bishop of Manchester, in his capacity as the Lord High Almoner, visited the island some number of weeks ago now to meet with the people who were going to receive the Maundy Money and explain the fascinating history of this ceremonial, he did conclude by saying very clearly that above everything, it was an act of worship. Joining me now is somebody who's perfectly placed to say whether indeed the spiritual did triumph over the ceremonial. Canon Malcolm Convery was in the procession, no stranger to big important events and walking in processions, but Malcolm, did this feel just a little bit different?
It was. I mean, the size of it, the number in the congregation, something like 2,000 people, the history of the building, realising it was a place where worship has been offered for hundreds of years. A lot of people walked down that aisle on those uneven stones, as you go down the middle aisle there. So there was that great feeling that this was a special place.
Did you feel a great sense of prayerfulness within the service itself, Malcolm?
Yes, I think there was. The music lifts it, the singing of the choir and the actual hymns with such a great congregation and such a big space, it sort of lifts the roof off. And in certain parts of the service, the hairs on the back of your neck would stand on end because it was a tremendous experience. And yet, for all the pomp and ceremony that went with it and the dressing up, as it were, there was the simplicity. The simplicity of the readings, for example, the reading of the Lord washing his disciples' feet, which was central. And right at the very beginning, that was highlighted, as it were, and was central to the service. And I think that came across, the simplicity of it. Everything was set out clearly, and it was a lovely service, an uplifting service.
Did you have to be there a long time in advance?
We had to go through security, so we had to be there early. And we had to go to the Lady Chapel, which at the back of the Lady Chapel is Edward the Confessor's tomb, which is very special. You don't often get in there. And I was the first in there, and I thought, this is so quiet. From all the crowds outside and the milling of people in the Abbey, and I went into this little sort of side chapel place. Lady Chapel was absolutely still and quiet. And I had just a few moments in there before the other canons arrived from the Europe diocese and our own diocese. And we were there preparing, having our prayers, and then the procession started.
Would you have said that was one of the most special moments for you personally?
That was special for all of us, I think, to think we were here. We had to pinch ourselves to believe we were here taking part in such an important occasion. And when you see the faces of all the people, lots of them whom you know, sitting there from the Isle of Man, all these recipients on the front row and their supporters behind, and lots of familiar faces. It was a real community gathering. We were all in it together, sharing it, and we'll not forget it.
Someone else sharing that unforgettable experience was Roman Catholic Tom Walsh. Tom Walsh received his Maundy Money in recognition of his services to music in his own church, which is St Mary's Roman Catholic Church in Douglas, as many years as musical director and choir master. So for you, Tom, the experience of music in Westminster Abbey must have been pretty special.
Yes, it was. Cathedral music is very different to parish music, as we all know, because their choirs are professional, really, because they train every day, even the young boys as well. And it's an all-male choir. And this may sound sexist, but I think a boy's treble voice is the clearest and purest voice you can possibly get. And that comes out in a cathedral choir, very much so. So yes, I enjoyed the music. And also, I've got to say that a lot of cathedral music is quite heavy and not to everybody's taste. But they did Zadok the priest, and I think everybody likes that one. In fact, I think it was the Queen who almost insisted on it being played.
Let's go behind the scenes for a moment, Tom. Before it all started, did you have to be there well in advance, and where did you go, and what was the procedure?
All the recipients had to go to the church house rather than directly to the Abbey. All your guests went directly to the Abbey and went through the security and so on. We went to church house. We all gathered in a large room there. And the Bishop of Manchester, again, gave a few explanations of what was going to go on. And then we were led into the Abbey through not the main west door, but the east door, and then took our places along, the aisle there. It was beautifully organised. Everybody had their seat, everybody had their number. You just went straight to your seat. The programme was there with your name on it. And it was the same for your guests as well. They were all given the programme with their names on. So it was military precision, absolutely, from start to finish. Everybody went down the aisle when they were supposed to, long before the Queen came. So it really was an experience, tremendous experience.
As well as being a ceremony that's steeped in history and tradition, it is a spiritual commemoration, isn't it? And did you get a sense of the prayerful and the spiritual at the same time?
Yes, I did. Someone behind me, when we were at Church House, stood up and said, "Are we all going to stand and sing Happy Birthday when the Queen comes into the Abbey, you see?" And the Bishop was very, very good. He said, "Well, that's a lovely idea, but it is a service, and it wouldn't be appropriate, really. They may sing it when she goes out of the Abbey," which of course they did. The children all sang it to her when she was outside. But it wasn't appropriate because it was a service and came across very much as a service, and one that the Queen obviously enjoys as well. You said I was given this honour because of my music with the church, but to me the honour is for the choir. I didn't do it on my own. I couldn't have done it at all without the choir. So in a sense, the honour is for all of them. And that's humbling, but very pleasant.
Well, now, here we are on the threshold of the royal wedding. In a matter of hours, we're all going to be glued to the television again. How will you feel when you look at the television and see the Abbey and think, I was there.
It's always exciting, isn't it? I mean, I think we're all a bit like this, hand on heart, when you see places on the TV and you think, oh, I've been there, particularly when it was only last week. So I think it'll be really good. And definitely for me, I was going to watch it anyway, because I love the whole ceremonial side of things. But definitely having been there just recently, we'll give it an extra bit of excitement.
Those precious little coins are given in recognition of a lifetime of service to church and community. Service given unselfishly by people who've never looked for praise or recognition, whose whole attitude is summed up perfectly in the words of Barbara Barron and Anne Kelly.
It was absolutely amazing. It's been a wonderful service and I feel very humble about it all.
Anything that needs doing, I'm quite happy to help in the village. I love where I live and I'm happy to be part of the community.
Thank you to our first ever Manx Maundy people and all the unsung heroes and heroines of our community who they represent. For without you, we would all be immeasurably poorer. Good evening.
You've been listening to this week's edition of 50 Years Serving the Island, where we brought you a programme broadcast in April 2011, which was presented by Judith Lay, looking at the visit to Westminster Abbey by 40 island residents to receive the Maundy Money from Her Majesty the Queen. The programme was broadcast a week after the event, on the eve of the royal wedding between the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. And you'll shortly be able to hear this programme again, along with lots more exclusive content from Manx Radio's archives, by going to manxradio.com/portal.